but the level of vocational training is too low. So we have to work on this to find a balance between the academic education and the vocational education. And I think one possibility is to stop educating young people in a dead-end way. So there should be more transparency between the different education levels. So maybe first you make a vocational education and later you can study as well, or you can combine both. The second challenge we are facing is that there are not enough people with entrepreneurial spirit, so we have to increase the entrepreneurial qualification and also secure the transfer of businesses. Transfer of businesses means that, especially in the new member states, the private companies have been initiated in the early 1990s, when the owner at that time were 30, 35 years old, and now they are 60, 65 years old and going to retire soon. And we need young business people to take over these companies. The European Commission found out that more jobs are lost in Europe due to failed transfers than new jobs are created by startups businesses. But still, most people are educated in a way that they should start up their own business and not consider taking over a running business. But these takeovers, the generation shift in the companies is of more and more importance every year. And that's something we have to work on. The last and third big challenge is that we, of course, need to raise the level of our qualification to strengthen the innovation. We cannot compete in the globalized world with the low labor cost countries in India or China. Our SMEs just need to have better products and better services. So they need to be part of the digitalization. They need to be innovative, and this asks for a high level of education and qualification. And this is actually where the ICC4VET project comes in, because we realized that in most countries, the vocational training lost a bit of its attractiveness in the last decades. For example, some years ago in Poland, almost 70% of all young people decided to go to university and study, even though there's no market for so many graduates of universities. And we thought it's important to raise the level of attractiveness for vocational training and see why it's even better in some cases than university educations. And the further development of the small and medium-sized companies is rather limited, since we don't have enough vocational trained people. So this is the background of the project, and also the European objective said even though you have an education once in your lifetime, it's not enough. You need to continue to do lifelong learning and lifelong education. And the European Union set a goal of 15% of adults that should participate in lifelong learning each year. But in Poland, the percentage is only 3.7% of people that continue education. And also in Germany, it's just 8.4%, so way below the European targets. And when thinking about education, it's important to think about competences. And there have been many studies on this topic, how important it is to teach people competences, not only theory. Especially in the last year, this caught up a lot in the academic world, this whole discussion about competence-based vocational education and training. But we thought that now it's really time to start this and to initiate this. And that's why we set up this team, this project team. And these are the project partners of the ICC4VET project that has been co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program. I just introduced myself, the Baltic Sea Academy, as a lead partner. Then another partner from Germany is the Berufsbildungs- und Technologiezentrum der Handwerkskammer Schwerin. Then we have the School for Mechatronics and Logistics and Education in Słupsk, Poland. We have the Business Building Training Center from Lithuania. We have from Lithuania the Panevėžys Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Crafts. And from Latvia, we have the Chamber of Crafts as well. And from Võru, we have the educational institution as well, located in Estonia and Võru. But all of these partners will introduce themselves a bit later on, so that's why I just want to provide you a fast overview. And now I will give you the main objective of the project on one page. It's really to increase the level of education, to introduce the dual vocational training in the partner countries that have so far mainly a school-based training, to further develop the future vocational training in systems in that countries, and by thus improving the overall qualification, and also to make the education of vocational training more attractive, and thus limit the number of lacking workforce or increase the number of well-qualified people. After this introduction, I'm very happy that the implementing partner from Slupsk, Barbara Czakrzewska, will give us her welcome remarks and objectives, followed by a colleague, Christian Wald, who will inform us about the establishment of the competence centers in the VET sector. And then again, Barbara or her colleague, Matthias, who's also present, will give us an insight in the experiences they had when setting up the competence center of dual vocational training, and a very important part, the further training of the teachers as well. And then Mrs. Kali Leno from Voru will give us an insight on the qualification of company personnel to carry out in-company vocational training. And last but not least, the highlight at the end, so my colleague Elina Predelina will give us an overview about the managers and executives that have been educated by further training to become technicians or master craftsmen. So this is the overview of today. And then later on, we have time for questions. Actually, we received already many questions via email, and we can go through the questions later on. But before we do that, I'm very eager to listen to the presentations of our partners. And but maybe now for this part, you have questions regarding my presentation. Or should we continue with Barbara with the next presentation?
Witam serdecznie wszystkich naszych gości zgromadzonych na konferencji. Z uwagi na obecność wielu gości z Polski postanowiliśmy wypowiedzi nasze przedstawić dwujęzycznie, tak aby były zrozumiałe dla wszystkich gości i uczestników projektu, którzy są teraz z nami połączeni, jak również będą chcieli sobie to otworzyć. Przedstawię Przemysława Jakubowskiego, jest to mój zastępca, nauczyciel języka angielskiego zawodowego, który będzie moim tłumaczem.
Welcome, my name is Przemek Jakubowski. I'm the deputy head of Barbara, and I'm also the English teacher, also vocational English teacher. Barbara has just said that we would like to warmly welcome all the gathered guests to our conference. And due to the fact that we've got plenty of guests and participants of the projects from Poland, and not only Poland, we have decided to do today the presentation bilingual. So I will try to translate all the words of Barbara's. Yeah? Welcome.
Jest nam bardzo przykro, że nie możemy tej konferencji przeprowadzić w tradycyjny sposób, ponieważ przygotowaliśmy wiele niespodzianek i atrakcji, poczyniliśmy naprawdę wiele przygotowań.
We are really sorry that we cannot conduct the conference in the traditional way because we have prepared a lot of attractions. We also planned a lot of events during the conference, but we've decided to do it virtually online today.
Konferencja miała odbyć się w przepięknych murach naszego słupskiego ratusza, lecz sytuacja związana właśnie z pandemią zmusiła nas wszystkich do przeorganizowania całego wydarzenia i właśnie przeprowadzenia go wirtualnie. Ale myślę, że dla nas wszystkich również to będzie ciekawe wyzwanie.
The conference was planned to be held in the beautiful building of City Hall, Town Hall in Słupsk, but the situation connected to the coronavirus pandemic exactly has changed all our plans. But we hope that today's conference in this way, electronic online way, will be also satisfied for all the participants and today's guests.
Lecz myślę, że nie forma, lecz przekaz jest tutaj najważniejszy, bo przecież wszystkim nam zależy na podwyższeniu jakości kształcenia zawodowego.
We believe that not form is the most important thing. We think that discussion in this way, also online, is also effective and really interesting for all the participants and guests gathered today. And we hope that exactly it will be effective and with good results in the end.
Właśnie projekt ICC4VET, w którym od 2017 roku mamy zaszczyt uczestniczyć, jest na pewno impulsem dla poprawy funkcjonowania naszej szkoły właśnie o koncepcji kształcenia dualnego.
The ICC4VET project, which we have exactly had participating since 2017, was a great opportunity to exactly create the impulse to improve all the functioning of our school based on the concept of dual education, especially in vocational training.
Kiedy 3 lata temu po raz pierwszy poznaliśmy zadania, które mamy do wykonania właśnie w tym projekcie, pomyślałam, że właściwie one są niemożliwe do wykonania. I właśnie dlatego myślę, że my jako szkoła musieliśmy je wdrożyć.
When 3 years ago we met the first tasks and regulations exactly to the project, done to the project, we thought that it would be impossible to implement, but nowadays we can see that it was a success, and we are really pleased with the results, which we'll be talking about today.
Choć początki nasze były trudne, ale nasz upór w wprowadzeniu czegoś zupełnie nowego, w efekcie udało nam się osiągnąć sukces.
Although the beginnings were really difficult, but our determination to push and implement the new way of education students training, in our opinion, was a success and is a success, and we believe that it will work for the further years.
Nasza szkoła stała się właściwie pionierem w zakresie dualnego systemu nauczania w branżowej szkole.
Our school, thanks to the project, has become a pioneer in the dual system of education, especially in the vocational training in industry. We believe that thanks to the project, we became exactly the pioneer also of exactly learning and teaching other schools how to do training, vocational training in a completely new way.
Podczas realizacji projektu przekształciliśmy naszą szkołę w Centrum Kompetencji. Zorganizowaliśmy kurs pedagogiczny dla instruktorów praktycznej nauki zawodu, testowaliśmy dualny system w jednej z naszych klas branżowej szkoły pierwszego stopnia.
One of the main things which we exactly achieved during the project was the transformation of our school into a center of competence. We also organized pedagogical courses for participants from the vocational training instructors from all the partners which we had in the project.
Ponadto uczestniczyliśmy w wielu warsztatach i konferencjach międzynarodowych, gdzie doskonaliśmy swoją wiedzę w zakresie rozwoju kształcenia zawodowego w oparciu o świetne praktyki naszych partnerów.
Moreover, we had the chance to participate in many international workshops and conferences, which exactly gives us the opportunity to improve the knowledge of vocational training and development the basis of practice and cooperating with our partners in a completely new way.
Szczegóły przedstawię w następnej mojej wypowiedzi. Jeszcze raz witam wszystkich bardzo serdecznie.
The details of exactly realizing the project and holding the project will be presented in the other part of the conference. One more time, we would like to welcome everybody and we wish you exactly a great time during our meeting.
Oddaję głos następnej osobie.
We're passing the floor, we're passing the exactly voice to the other participant.
Dziękuję bardzo. That's about all my Polish. But thank you very much for your introduction. And maybe it's not the right time now to do this, but I would just like to express my gratitude to you because I think you've done a great work. And it's not easy also for schools to rethink their role and become a center of competence. But you did an outstanding job, and thank you very much so far. And now I will then pass the floor to my colleague, Christian White.
Yes. Good morning. Also from me, a warm welcome to this conference. I'm very glad so many people are participating, especially because this project is really was very well developed and really deserves this much attention. So today I will talk about the establishment of industry competence centers of vocational education and training that we developed within this project, not only about the 2 stages we developed in the project, also about the 3rd stage. We delivered some preliminary work in order to realize the stage in the future. We already heard how important SMEs are, that 99% of the companies are SMEs and how important they are for the economy and for the social systems. But SMEs are also facing some challenges, and especially the shortage of skilled workers is alarming for SMEs. We know now that SMEs need more and more employees in the next years due to aging. A lot of skilled workers are leaving SMEs, and there are not enough young people in the labor market right now. Also, we've seen in the last 40 years that the number of entrepreneurs shrunk by 50%. Entrepreneurs are important not only for the foundation of new companies, but also for taking over existing businesses. And this resulted in this situation right now that more jobs each year are lost due to failed succession of SMEs than are newly created with startups each year. In general, SMEs have very good growth opportunities, but for this they need qualified personnel. The vocational education and training is not so attractive for many high school graduates. In Europe, more than 60% of the high school graduates go to university and study afterwards. We know that in some countries, like Poland, for example, this rate is even higher, like 70%. And not so many people are interested in receiving vocational education and training. Also, the competition in Europe increases, and the SMEs with less resources become losers compared to large enterprises. So these are the quantity problems that result in growing deficits of SMEs. But we also know from surveys, I will present some results later on, that many entrepreneurs complain about the qualifications of young people. They say they are not qualified enough to work in their companies. At the same time, also the qualification requirements are very high and dynamically increasing over the years. And the technological progress also requires rapidly changing qualifications and more adaptability. And these are the quality problems we have for SMEs, which also result in growing deficits. So what is the starting point? We see here the unemployment rate of under 25-year-olds. And we see the dual system with a lot of training, more than 70% of training in the company. In Denmark, Germany, and Norway results in the lowest unemployment rates under 25-year-olds. But in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Finland, and Sweden, we have different dual vocational education systems. These systems are school-based, and the apprentices, they spend less time in the companies. And as a result, we see that these school-based systems, they result in high unemployment rates under 25-year-olds in these countries. We also see a change of population in Europe. And we see that in most countries, especially the group of the young people, 15 to 44-year-olds, is declining in the next years. We see Latvia, Lithuania, also Poland, with rates of more than 20% from 2010 to 2030. So we are almost halfway there. The exception are Sweden and Norway, where the population is growing. But all the other countries, they will see a decline in the young labor force group. And then we conducted a business survey. I want to present some results of the survey to you. And this survey found out that around 40% of SMEs are looking for company successors. This illustrates once again the problem of entrepreneur deficits. 70% of the SMEs replied that they need additional skilled workers, that they want to hire more people. Actually, 100% of SMEs said that it's true that it is difficult or almost impossible to attract the skilled workers they need. And in the medium term, 78% of the SMEs need new additional managers as well. We saw that the business survey results stated 96% of the SMEs, they want better practical training, and 74% also better theoretical vocational training. And 100% of SMEs said that the requirements are increasing, and also that there is a very, very strong competition for young people among the labor market. So we developed a solution for this, and this is the dual vocational training. And the main objectives of the dual vocational training are to strengthen and integrate all young people. It's a new opportunity for young people to increase their qualifications and their career perspectives. It helps to attract skilled workers and entrepreneurs. It shapes the social development in the country, and it increases innovation and competitiveness of the companies, and it promotes SMEs as a source of growth and prosperity. So the dual system of vocational training is really, really important in this context. We've seen some new developments which complemented the work we did during this project. In Poland, there were some regulatory changes regarding two-stage industry competence centers. And this means in 2017, Poland started with the 3-year dual vocational training, and we developed and implemented this stage in the school in Słupsk. And then the second stage in Poland is starting from 2020 on. This is the 2-year training as technician with the possibility of obtaining a university entrance qualification after completing this training. Also, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia implemented various reforms in the last year in order to realize and strengthen dual vocational training. And we know that for further intensification of this training, the adult education is the rate of participants in the EU is very low. We know in many countries this rate is between 3 and 5%. The target of the European Union is 15%, but only Scandinavia with rates of 25 to 30% is completing this EU target. The motivation of the Baltic Sea Academy to participate in this project is that we want to promote these developments intensively, and we want to enhance the potentials that are existent in the countries. Therefore, we introduced and implemented further innovations in this reform and also in previous reforms. So the project ICC4VET is a 3-year project and deals with the establishment of only 2-stage industry competence centers of vocational education and training, but we also delivered the preliminary work for the 3rd stage of the vocational education and training. What are the goals and tasks of this project? First of all, we introduced and implemented the dual vocational training, the 3-year dual vocational training in the project, with the example of the profession automotive mechatronics engineers in Słupsk. We had some very good partners from the industry companies that were complementing this. And there's also an additional video in the online conference and on the Hanse-Parlament's YouTube channel about dual vocational training in Germany by my colleague, Ms. Elina Pigoulet. And the second goal was the development of a 2-stage industry competence center and the further development of the vocational school in Słupsk. And for this, there is also a video available by Barbara Sakrewska, also on the website or on the YouTube channel. And this was first implementation of the dual training and the structure of the first level of the branch's competence center. Also, further training of teachers at vocational schools was realized in order to implement vocational training and technician training. And for this, also video training of teachers for dual vocational training is available. The qualification of owners and technical and managerial staff of SMEs is very important, and it's a preliminary condition in order to realize dual vocational education training. Because if you do it in a system where the company is a partner, you need in the company people who know how to train the apprentices. So first of all, you need to train some people in the company in order to be able to participate in dual vocational education and training, this so-called trainer qualification. We also have a video prepared for this. In fact, we developed 2 different types of trainer qualification in the project. And yeah, as well as all other results, of course, also these curricula are available on the website ICC4VET.eu. So now you see it's getting a little bit more complex. The training of the trainers helps implementing the dual vocational training, and the qualification of teachers helps to develop the first stage of the branch center. Then also the development and realization of a 3-year technician training was another goal, and we used the example of a construction technician for this. There is another video dealing with this, also available on the YouTube channel. And then we tested the technician training in different countries, and now we see that beside the first stage of the branches competence center, also the second stage of the branches competence center was developed and implemented in Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Then, as I mentioned in the beginning, we also developed a 3rd level of sector competence centers with implementation of dual bachelor programs. For that, we developed group blueprints. And the 3rd stage is dual bachelor programs. This means that that you study that studies are integrated in dual vocational education and training, and this 3rd level enhances the attractiveness of dual vocational education and training by far. Then the last goal of the project was the transfer with implementation and consulting of all results. We transferred we are going to transfer the results to 50 chambers and SME promoters and 18 universities from all Baltic countries. And we will support this with implementation support and with consulting how to best implement this in the respective school. So SMEs are very important. They carry Europe, and the cooperation with SMEs and dual vocational training is the best way in order to meet the qualification needs of all young people and companies in Europe. Many thanks for your attention.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christian. And now I would like to give the floor again to our colleagues from SLUPS, to Barbara and Matthias, and hear about the experiences when setting up the Center of Competences with the training of the teachers.
W skrócie chciałabym powiedzieć, co zrobiliśmy w tym projekcie, jaki był nasz udział.
In a short, we would like to present what we have done during the project and what was our participation.
W roku szkolnym 2018-19 uruchomiliśmy pilotaż dualnego systemu nauczania w 1. klasie branżowej szkoły 1. stopnia w zawodzie mechanik pojazdów samochodowych.
In the school year 2018-2019, we have piloted a dual system of teaching in the 1st class of vocational school of the 1st degree.
Z uwagi na duży sukces tego pilotażu, po rozmowach z pracodawcami postanowiliśmy wdrożyć ten dualny system kształcenia w pozostałych naszych zawodach w branżowej szkole pierwszego stopnia.
Due to the fact of the great success of the dual training pilotage in the one class of the first degree vocational school, after discussions with our employers, we decided to introduce dual training to all other first classes, and that's it.
Zmiana polegała na tym, że do tej pory mieliśmy taki system, że 40% kształcenia zawodowego odbywał się w szkole teoretyczne, a praktyczne 60%. Dzięki temu projektowi zmieniliśmy proporcje i w szkole teoretycznej nauki zawodu uczą się w 30%, a 70% pracodawców.
The change was that so far students have spent 60% of their time with the employer on practical education and 40% of their time learning theory at school. Thanks to the ICC4VET project, this proportion has been changed into 30% of theoretical education and training at school and 70% of practical education at employers.
Wspólnie z pracodawcami zmieniliśmy i dostosowaliśmy programy nauczania, aby one były spójne właśnie z tą zmienioną propozycją między kształceniem praktycznym a teoretycznym.
Cooperating with the employers who are exactly participants of the project too, we have changed exactly the curriculums to be consistent with the changed ratio between practical and theoretical education.
Przeprowadziliśmy kurs pedagogiczny dla pracodawców, aby mogli stać się instruktorami praktycznej nauki zawodów. W kursie tym wzięło udział 18 osób.
We organized and conducted the pedagogical courses for employers so that they have opportunity to become practical vocational training instructors. As many as 18 people took part in the training.
Dodam, że dla pracodawców odbyło się to nieodpłatnie.
I'd like to add that for all the employers, the training was free.
Przekształciliśmy naszą szkołę właśnie w centrum kompetencji, które stało się obszarem przenikania kształcenia teoretycznego i praktycznego w zakładach pracy i centrum kształcenia praktycznego.
We have transformed our school into a competence center, which has become an area of interpretation of theoretical and practical training in companies and a center of practical training.
A od 1 września 2020 otwieramy szkołę branżową drugiego stopnia, gdzie mogą kontynuować naukę właśnie absolwenci szkoły branżowej pierwszego stopnia.
Since the 1st September of 2020, this year, we plan to open the second degree vocational school, where our students can exactly follow and continue education in the vocational training.
Przeprowadziliśmy również szereg szkoleń dla naszych nauczycieli.
We also conducted plenty of courses and trainings for our teachers at school.
Jakie były problemy, gdy rozpoczynaliśmy właśnie te zmiany? No, przede wszystkim były negatywne opinie pracodawców, jeśli chodzi o przygotowanie uczniów do pracy.
What were the problems at the beginning of the project and in the process of implementation brand new way of training, teaching our students in a dual system? First of all, we had quite high amount of negative opinions of employers about the quality and usefulness of vocational training.
Ja teraz mówię po polsku, bo to chyba troszeczkę dodałeś, właśnie nie dopowiedziałam, właśnie chodzi o według pracodawców niewystarczające przygotowanie praktyczne właśnie do zawodu. Też mała aktywność zawodowa uczniów szkół zawodowych, czyli uciekali nam jakby z systemu. Po ukończeniu szkoły nie pracowali w swoim zawodzie, tylko albo zmieniali zawód, albo wyjeżdżali z naszego miasta.
Our employers exactly pay attention and gives us information that past exactly education and training was in a poor practical preparation of graduates and low efficiency of the graduates of our school. Low professional activity of vocational school students was connected also with that after graduation, some groups of them didn't want exactly to work as a professionals and they changed the professions.
Uwagi też były skierowane do właśnie jakości kształcenia. Mogło to być spowodowane tym, że szkoła czy warsztaty nie ma odpowiedniego sprzętu i nowoczesnych technologii.
We had some information about the quality of the training. We believe that it was caused by exactly lack of appropriate equipment and lack of appropriate training in the past times.
Barierą również było to, że młodzież miała mało motywacji co do wyboru ścieżki zawodowej dalszej.
In our opinion, one of the barriers was also that the really low level of motivation to choose and decide on other educational plan after graduating the school.
Również były bariery instytucjonalne, tak, brak umowy takiej społecznej na rzecz kształcenia dualnego, bo też pracodawcy w małym stopniu chcieli się angażować w to kształcenie.
The other kind of barriers were also institutional barriers because we had some social, we didn't have the social contract for dual education. Some of the employers at the beginning didn't want to participate in this new way of teaching, new way of training.
Tak naprawdę to odczuwaliśmy taki brak zintegrowanego systemu koordynacji tego systemu dualnego w polskiej oświacie.
In the past, we exactly feel, in a really real way, the lack of integrated, coordinated system for the dual system in Polish educational system.
No i też niestety zawsze jest obawa przed zmianami i jest taki opór.
Unfortunately, there is always also exactly some kind of aversion to change and some kind of hesitation to do the changes in the old systems.
Barierą również było to, że w polskiej oświacie bardzo często następowały zmiany przepisów prawa.
In last years, one of the barriers was also law barrier because we had a lot of and frequent changes in the educational law, educational system and reforms of the system of education in Poland.
Również obawy wynikały z tego, że nauczyciele bali się, nasi nauczyciele teoretycznej nauki zawodu, że stracą pracę, będą mieli mniej godzin.
Some fears were also connected with the teachers who were exactly really afraid of losing their jobs after changing the system into other way of education.
Pracodawcy również musieli nauczyć się pracować z młodzieżą inaczej, poświęcić im więcej czasu na opiekę, co oczywiście generuje większe koszty, bo taki pracownik musi jednak opuścić swoich obowiązków nie wykonuje, musi poświęcić więcej czasu młodemu człowiekowi.
Quite difficult thing was also exactly the fact that employers had to learn how to run the dual education. They have to devote much more time to looking after students, to organize all the process of education, which generates also some higher costs of exactly leading the company and preparing the students. I think they changed exactly their mind, but that was one of the fears at the beginning of the project.
I oczywiście konieczność przygotowania pedagogicznego pracodawcy.
One of the most challenging things was also obviously exactly the preparation of pedagogical skills and new methods and didactics for the employers.
A jakie korzyści mamy z tego projektu?
What are the benefits from the project?
Zalety tego systemu kształcenia dualnego bez wątpliwości predestynują go do miana wiodącego systemu kształcenia zawodowego obowiązującego w krajach Unii Europejskiej.
One of the most important advantages of the dual education system is, with no hesitation, make it a leading vocational training system in the European Union countries.
Do najważniejszych zalet tego wdrożonego przez nas systemu należą.
One of the main advantages, the main advantages of this solution implemented are included
kwalifikacje pracowników dostosowane do wymagań firmy.
Qualifications of employees adapted to the company requirements and expectations.
Dzięki temu, że mniej czasu spędzają uczniowie w szkole, mogliśmy lepiej ułożyć nasz plan lekcji. A przypominam, że jesteśmy dużą szkołą, ponieważ mamy 31 klas i ponad 840 uczniów, więc dla nas to była ogromna korzyść.
Thanks to the fact that the students do not spend exactly such a huge amount of time at school, we had a chance to create and prepare much more better school schedule, which is more effective for the students and which are pleased with the new fact that they don't have to spend a lot of time at school.
Również musimy wspomnieć o kosztach, bo wiadomo, zatrudniając pracowników, nasz organ prowadzący ponosi większe koszty, a dzięki temu, że większy nacisk jest na spędzanie czasu u pracodawców, mogliśmy te koszty obniżyć.
Reduction of the costs of acquiring new employers are quite as well as important as other factors. Teachers and students who went to the employers do not spend as much time at school and we don't have other costs.
Lecz jednak było inaczej, ponieważ w ubiegłym roku mieliśmy tak dużo chętnych do tego zawodu i do naszych innych, że tak naprawdę musiałam dotrudnić pracowników.
Yeah, but there was one thing was really surprising because after exactly the dual system and the ICC4VET project, we had exactly the really great feedback. We had a lot of other students, new students, were interested into coming to school, and finally, the principal had to exactly hire new employees, new teachers, new trainers.
A wiemy, że w naszym kraju, ja myślę, że we wszystkich krajach jest problem z nauczycielami właśnie przedmiotów zawodowych.
And we all exactly realized and we all know that one of the biggest problems in education, vocational training and vocational teaching students is to find a good professionals, engineers who want to exactly teach and lead the classes.
Pracodawcy również bardzo byli zadowoleni z tego, że mieli bezpośredni wpływ na program kształcenia i razem uczestniczyliśmy w tych zmianach.
Well, the employers were exactly really pleased that they have direct impact into exactly the way of looking of curriculars and the way of looking exactly the whole training. I think for them was the really important thing was the correlation between employers and the school.
Oczywiście wzrost lojalności i taka silniejsza identyfikacja pracowników z zakładem pracy.
The other thing is also increased, really huge increase of loyalty and stronger identification of employees with the company, with the enterprises.
I co dla nas bardzo ważne, podniósł się prestiż i uznanie szkoły w środowisku lokalnym.
Moreover, what is really important for us, we exactly observed the development of prestige and recognition of the school in the local environment, also in the local work market.
Korzyścią jest również to, że zaczęliśmy podpisywać umowy trójstronne między szkołą, warsztatami naszymi szkolnymi i pracodawcami.
One of the huge benefits of this project was also the fact that we exactly started to sign the agreements of three parts contracts with three participants, not only the dual contracts.
Dzięki udziałowi w tym projekcie również zdobyliśmy nowe doświadczenia. Poznaliśmy system edukacji w innych krajach i mogliśmy wybrać to, co najlepsze dla nas, dla naszej edukacji.
Thanks to the participation to the project, we had exactly gained a lot of new experiences. We met a lot of new experiences and infos about other educational systems in other countries, which we exactly try to implement nowadays in Poland, in our system, in our school.
Tak, co również chwalili pracodawcy, że mamy silniejszą współpracę i integrację właśnie z pracodawcami.
Moreover, the employers and the participants of the project exactly are really pleased with the much more stronger cooperation and integration between school and the employers in the field of work and training, vocational training of our students and preparing the employees for the future work job market.
Tak, i większa również zatrudnialność naszych absolwentów. Pracodawcy poznali ich, mogli ich przygotować pod potrzeby funkcjonowania takiego zakładu.
There is also the greater employability for our graduates. They can find work much more easily because they are much more better prepared, vocationally prepared. There is also much more, our graduates are much more efficient for the labor market needs nowadays.
I co jest najważniejsze, bo przecież celem istnienia szkoły zawodowej jest efektywne kształcenie młodzieży na potrzeby rynku pracy. I myślę, że to jest clue i najważniejsza rzecz, korzyść z tego projektu.
But the most important thing for the vocational school, which leads the professional vocational training, is the greatest and much more better effectiveness and efficiency for the work market, for the employers. Our graduates nowadays are much more attractive to the market.
Tak. Bardzo ważnym też elementem wdrożenia tego dualnego kształcenia był kurs pedagogiczny właśnie dla instruktorów praktycznej nauki zawodu.
The really important element for the project was also the pedagogical training, the pedagogical course for the employers, preparing students to the new professions.
Ten kurs obejmował zagadnienia z pedagogiki, psychologii, metodyki i umiejętności dydaktycznych w łącznym wymiarze 48 godzin.
This course, pedagogical course, was based on many issues connected to the pedagogy, psychology, methodology, also didactic skills for our future vocational trainers.
Wszyscy uczestnicy, z czego bardzo się cieszymy, pozytywnie zdali egzamin państwowy i uzyskali certyfikaty uprawniające ich do pełnienia roli instruktorów praktycznej nauki zawodu.
All the participants of this course successfully passed the state examination and obtained a certificate entitling them to act the practical vocational training as instructors, which is really pleased for us, and we are really happy that they succeeded.
I tak na koniec bardzo chciałam podziękować panu Jürgenowi Hogefesterowi za rozwój naszej szkoły i pomoc przy realizacji projektu. Myślę, że
in the end, I would like to thank in a real way to Mr. Jürgen
Hogefoster,
I'm sorry, for exactly a huge amount of development for our school and help in realization to the project, in leading the project.
To w dużej mierze właśnie pana zasługa. Bardzo się cieszę, że miałam zaszczyt poznać pana i z panem współpracować. Naprawdę wielki to był zaszczyt dla mnie.
We believe that to Mr. Jürgen, thanks to Mr. Jürgen, we exactly succeed in the finalizing the project. I would like to tell also that it was a huge privilege for us, for a cooperation and working with you. It was a huge success for both of us and other participants.
Na pewno będę pamiętała nasze rozmowy na zewnątrz i bardzo dużo się od pana nauczyłam.
For sure, I will remember for future years our conversations and outside, and I exactly believe that I learned a lot from you, and I would like to say one more time thank you.
Bardzo dziękuję. Przekazuję głos następnej osobie.
Thank you very much. We are passing the floor to the next participant of the conference.
So, hello, good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kaili Leino, and I'm currently working at Võru County Vocational Training Center. And let me welcome you, everybody from Estonia. And I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to participate in the project and to speak about the topic qualification of company personnel to carry out in-company vocational training. So I'd like to share my screen with you. Just a second. To show you the presentation. So, and here is the topic. So before I get started, let me slightly speak about two different approaches recruiting new employees at the company. The best is to show you two advertisements. The first one is taken from Germany. And we can see from this job advertisement that a new recruit should not worry so much about not having previous professional qualification, because according to the German system, a company is able to provide training to the employee if it's really, really necessary. But unfortunately, if you take a look at the Estonian job advertisement, we can see that this thing is all vice versa. An employee already needs to possess professional skills and qualification and previous work experience. Then the question rises how the work labor is trained in Estonia. And basically there are two ways to complete the training. So first is school-based study or internship. In this case, work practice evolves up to 1/2 of the volume of the curriculum. But then the second is work-based learning, and in this case, work practice involves at least 2/3 of the curriculum. It means the majority of responsibilities lies on work-based supervisors. So we are really happy that work-based learning, a form of study, is getting implemented more and more in Estonia, and it's getting more and more popular. But unfortunately, there is one uncovered issue, and that is qualification of company's personnel to work as a student-side supervisor. And actually, there are not enough regulations for work-based learning. And let me extract from Arrangement for Implementation of Work-Based Learning and Regulation, and we can see that there are only 6 of them. The first is it's important to have a student-side instructor and student-side supervisor. Secondly, they both need to possess professional and pedagogical competence. The guidance should go throughout the study period. Then fourthly, a supervisor at one placement may have up to 4 supervised students. So the school shall ensure the preparation of supervisors for work-based guidance, and the internship placement shall ensure the performance of the work organization and supervision tasks. And this is basically it. And we can see that it's not enough. Now, our organization had a wonderful possibility and opportunity to carry out test training in SMEs. Within the project, establishment of 2-stage industry competence centers of vocational education and training. The test training was carried out during January to March 2019. The curriculum was provided by our Latvian partners, and after completing the training program, participants were issued a 80-hour certificate. The goal was to offer this program to vocational schools on a permanent basis so that the teachers get qualified for the ongoing independent implementation of courses in all regions. The test training was carried out actually in Latvia and in Estonia, but here in Estonia, in the training participated 18 participants who all were owners and employees of SMEs. There were 18, and out of those 18 participants, 56% were male and 44% were female. And the age gap was between 25 to 54 years of age. If we take a look at the participants by Estonian occupational system classification, the participants were followed followingly. 67% were in the field of technology, production and processing, 22% were in the field commerce and hospitality services, and 11% of participants were in the field of telecommunication and electronics. In the training, there were 4 teachers, and they were all from our vocational training center. Now, I'd like to continue with evaluation results. Evaluation results indicate that also firstly, study methods. As a study methods, we used written surveys for all participants and trainers, which were carried out in the beginning and in the end of the training. As well, were interviews with 3 participants, 2 trainers, and 3 SMEs. The research questions were expectations of participants, satisfaction of trainees, possibility of implementation of the training in our country, and we also wanted to figure out trainees' opinions about training's impact on their professional and personal growth, and questions how and if the skills acquired during the training can be useful to participants' daily work. So now the survey results. The survey results indicated that 95% of the respondents were totally satisfied with the training, and they truly agreed that the training met their expectations. Then, and they also felt that interaction were encouraged and highly evaluated. The majority of the respondents agreed that it is possible to implement this kind of training in our country. And they also believe that it is that their job situation will improve, and the training acquired enough abilities to work with trainees. And this definitely, almost 100%, we can see that 89% were totally satisfied that the training will be useful to the daily work. And especially where pointed out that the most useful parts were vocational pedagogy, methodology of practical training, then definitely psychology, then planning the training, learning outcomes and assessment methods. Then also participants studied and learned how to settle individual goals to work with trainees. And they also gained information and knowledge about curriculum. That is very important. Based on the feedback of respondents' answers, we would like to recommend following. So firstly is to develop legally regulated dual vocational training system. And I'd like to emphasize that not only for education and institutions, but also for in-company personnel, and to involve them as well into this program. Then responsibility and refunding should be shared equally between the vocational school and the practical training company. Today, it's not really equal, unfortunately. So nextly, we recommend to solve the issue of equal payment for interns and SMEs. This is a little bit related to the previous part, but we wanted to point it out. Then definitely organize complementary or further trainings for SMEs before upcoming internship for free to indicate responsibilities for internship. Then why not to create a mentor program for vocational education training? So maybe here is just giving random number 320. Then, and this should be, of course, supported by country's government. And also government should support SMEs, reduce bureaucracy in the circulation of documents, differentiating taxes, so regulations will be more realistic and reasonable. Very important is and crucial is to create or to develop system for appreciating and recognizing SMEs who offer quality practical training. And vocational school should regularly and more oftentimes monitor and support trainees during the internship. And these are all taken for open answers. So very interesting. And in conclusion, actually the training indicated that there is a huge demand and interest towards this training. And on the basis of evaluation results, we can conclude that all three parties, participants, trainers, and SMEs were totally satisfied with participating in the non-formal dual training system, Train the Trainer in SMEs. And I would like to finish my presentation with James Watkin quote, "A river cuts through rock, not because of its power, but because of its persistence." And actually, we hope that this will be the same with us, that at last the water finds its way. At last, our educators will understand the importance of qualified in-company personnel to carry out in-company vocational training. So thank you very much for your attention and interest. And this was Galileo and Estonia.
Tanut, thank you very much. Very interesting. And I like very much the picture you put up at the end. especially with education, I think it takes sometimes quite a long time until the river really flows, but every drop of water helps the river to get stronger. And especially in this new educational system, it's not always easy, but very rewarding. So then we will proceed now with my colleague Elina Pedolina from the Hanse-Parlament to tell us more about the further training to become technicians and master craftsmen. Just a second, I think we need to upload the PowerPoint presentation. There we go. Okay.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I will present you today the technician training we developed in the project ICC4VET. This training is one of the educational measures, as you have heard before from my previous speakers. Some words about this technician training. This training prepares managers and executives in small and medium-sized enterprises. So we are speaking about a high-level vocational training. So if you are familiar with the European Qualification framework, this technician training as well as master craftsman training are at the same level as bachelor degrees, or at the qualification framework level 6. And altogether, European Qualification framework has 8 levels. So let's try to go on. Yeah, we heard about the importance of SMEs from my previous speakers. Nevertheless, a few more facts and information. 99.8% of all companies are SMEs, and yeah, the most of them employ less than 10 employees. So we speak about small but powerful companies which contributes greatly to the economy, employment, and labor market, for example, by creating 85% of all new jobs. What are the challenges for SMEs for this economic power? Dr. Max Hogefoster mentioned these at the beginning of the conference, therefore I will just name them. The first challenge is the large and growing shortage of skilled workers. The second one is that we have to close a gap to secure business transfers. And the third one is increasing qualifications and the need for strengthening innovation. Yeah, a great way to overcome these challenges is the training as technician. It helps recruit highly qualified specialists and managers, and the training prepares excellent young entrepreneurs. The technician training in Germany has a long tradition and has proven its worth for many decades. In Poland, a legal base for technician training has been established recently, and it contains 2 stages. The first one is the 3-year dual vocational training. It started 2017, and the second stage from autumn this year is the technician training. And additionally, I would like to mention that the technician training has this advantage, and that it gives admission to higher education, to entry to higher education, and that it increases, of course, attractiveness of vocational training, especially for the strong learners. What are the prerequisites to participate in the training? The candidate has to have completed vocational training in the corresponding profession or related profession, and the technician training lasts for 2 years with about 2,400 hours of lessons. So it's very comprehensive vocational training. It is structured in 4 main modules. Module A, it's about the general principles and contains 4 modules. Module B, a specialized qualification with 9 modules. And this module is completed by interdisciplinary project work. Module C is business administration with 5 modules, and module C is vocational and occupational pedagogy with 4 modules. These main modules, A, C, and D, are uniform for all professions, and module B is occupation specific. Within the project ICC4VET, that will be finished in 2 months, we developed the technician training for the profession construction. So we prepared qualified workers in the profession construction technician. We tested and evaluated this training in 5 countries in Baltic Sea region, in Germany, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And as I said, 3 modules are uniform for all professions, so you can use them for any profession you would offer the technician training. Only module B has to be redesigned. Let's take a look at each module. Module A is about the general principles. It contains 490 hours. 2 modules are partly occupational, 2 of them are cross-professional. That means for these modules are for students from different professions of technician training at the same time. Module B is a very comprehensive module. This is the occupation-specific module, and it contains 9 modules, and these are very different in their range of hours, so from 15 hours up to 315 hours. One of the modules is country-specific when we speak about the law issues, and this module is completed with the interdisciplinary project work with 120 hours. Module C contains 380 hours. It's about business administration. This module is especially important for overcoming the entrepreneurial gap in many countries of the Baltic Sea region and securing business transfers for SMEs. This module can be offered separately from technician training as advanced training with a degree business economist, and this target group for this advanced training are entrepreneurs to be, so who want to start a business or take over one. And last module is module D. This is again cross-professional module that contains 105 hours, and you conclude this module with a degree trainer. This degree is very important, or especially important for trainings in dual system. If you, as a company, if you are involved in a dual system, in dual trainings, and take on in your company young people, this qualification allows you to train these young people. Training to become a master craftsman. I speak about vocational master, or in German Meisterausbildung. Master training has 4 parts. Part 1, professional practice and master's piece. Part 2, specialist theory. Part 3, business administration. And part 4, vocational and work pedagogy. And if we compare them with the technician training, we see that part 1 and part 2 of the Master Craftsman training correspond to the main module B of the technician training. Part 3 of Master Craftsman training, Business Administration, is the same to the technician training module C. And part 4, Vocational Work Pedagogy, is the same module in the technician training module D. So what does it mean? What does it mean? That the technician training paves way for Master Craftsman training, as it also covers all parts of the technician training. For all parts of master training. So the Master Craftsman qualification that is offered at a relatively low level in many countries can be upgraded through technician training. In Poland, the Master Craftsman training is not financed by the state, but the technician trainings now. So through the technician training, the master training could be realized under the same conditions. So the Chambers of Crafts could include the Master Craftsman training in the training offer to the students. What else to be said? The good news that all the materials, curricula, teaching materials, examination regulations, and so on, have been fully developed and are free available for everyone who have interest to apply technician training. We tested this training, as I said, in practice and evaluated in Germany, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And on the basis of these evaluation results, the documents are revised and completed. And as I said, from now on, all documents are available for use in several languages, important and free of charge. Let me sum up the opportunities of the technician trainings brings to you. First, that technician training is addressed to all vocational education institutions to realize important training. Technician training, secondly, is for all people with vocational training for development of their career and also secure job. It's perfect for people who are thinking about starting their own business or take over one. And finally, it's also important for SMEs who need to recruit specialists, managers, and young entrepreneurs before big companies do it. And that's from my side. I thank you for your attention, and I'm available for any questions from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Elina. And now, finally, there's probably a lot of questions, and we're happy to answer your questions. Are there some questions from the participants? Because we also received many questions by email, and I can start with those questions and just put them on the screen and then ask you to answer them. But otherwise, we can use first the chance for questions from the participants. No direct questions. Okay. Then I have a question that we received via email. I tried to translate it into Polish, but with an automatic translator, so it might not be the perfect translation. But the main question is that this vocational training is rather new to Poland, the dual system. And one very general question is if there are some similarities or if it's totally different. But probably more interesting is the part if there's also a contract between the participants, the apprentices, and the company, and if they receive a salary or training allowance from the company, does the company pay for the education?
Aha, ja mówię, tak. Jest troszkę tylko podobny. Idealnie by było, gdybyśmy mieli system kształcenia właśnie taki, jak jest w Niemczech.
It's a little bit similar. The ideal way would be if we had exactly the system just like Germany is.
Młody człowiek, rozpoczynając naukę jako młodociany pracownik, podpisuje umowę właśnie taką szkoleniową z firmą na okres nauki.
The young people, the young students starting the training, contracting exactly, signing the contract with the company on the period of the course and training.
Jest już pracownikiem i obowiązują go te same zasady jak dorosłego pracownika, lecz tylko tam są małe różnice, jeśli chodzi o urlop, ale również musi mieć urlop w czasie wakacji.
In the time of training, he is an employee, a regular employee, practically just like an adult employee, regular employee. There is some differences with exactly 3 days and vacations.
Otrzymują wynagrodzenie, to może za dużo powiedziane, ale otrzymują taki dodatek szkoleniowy i on jest w pierwszej klasie najniższy, w trzecim roku nauki najwyższy.
They are receiving exactly some kind of allowance, but it's not a full amount of exactly payment. Co było ostatnie?
W pierwszej klasie najniższy, w trzeciej najwyższy.
In the first grade it is lower, but in the third grade it is higher and it's the highest from the whole 3 years of training.
Gdy po 3 latach nauki uczeń zda egzamin zawodowy, pracodawca otrzymuje refundację. Teraz to wynosi około 10 000 polskich złotych.
If the student after 3 years of training exactly successfully passing the state exam, vocational exam, the employer exactly getting a refundation of the costs which exactly he puts into the training.
To wszystko.
And that's all.
Thank you very much. One question I have in Germany, it's often the case that the companies feel that they are investing into the new talent. So if they make a contract for 3 years for the education, they try to make it as binding as possible so that after the training is finalized, this new employee stays with that company to make sure he will also after education continue to work for that company. Is it the same in Poland?
Oni mówią, że po 3 latach, że tak powiem, oni się starają w Niemczech, żeby uczeń został i kontynuował pracę i czy tak samo jest w Polsce?
Tak, oczywiście. No taki jest cel tego, że pracodawca przygotowuje ucznia do pracy właśnie w tym zakładzie. No nie zawsze to się odbywa, nieraz uczniowie zmieniają zakład pracy.
Yes, of course, and this is the main purpose exactly of this kind of training, and the perfect situation is when the students exactly decide to stay and be the full exactly time employee for the employer, but sometimes students exactly make a decision to change exactly the profession or change the employer. But the purpose is to exactly be in this employer, in this enterprise, and cooperate after completed that 3 years training.
Okay, dziękuję. Another question is that in some countries there are not even enough places for people to get trained in a company, so that the training takes place at a workshop or the training facility connected to the school. If that is the case, do they also receive an allowance, a salary?
Nie. Od razu uczeń podejmuje decyzję, czy chce być właśnie młodocianym pracownikiem i mieć praktyki w zakładzie pracy, czy będzie miał zajęcia praktyczne w naszych warsztatach szkolnych.
In Poland, when student exactly is applying to the school after exactly finishing, nowadays it's a elementary school, he has to or she has to decide exactly which way of training and learning exactly chooses. One exactly possibility is to be a young employee, and sign the contract with the employer, and the other, and there is allowance and some kind of payment for the training and work. And the other opportunity and possibility, the student decides to learn, let's say, at the technical center, workshop center. But there is, of course, practical way of vocational training and theoretical at school, but there are not any exactly allowance, any payments.
Tak.
So the students at the beginning of the path, in the middle education, secondary education, had to make a decision. Do they want to be young employees or do they want to be still a regular students?
I tak jak właśnie tu Przemek powiedział, nie otrzymują wtedy wynagrodzenia. Są przypadki, że uczniowie zmieniają zdanie. Na przykład byli młodocianymi pracownikami, mogą zmienić zdanie i odbywać zajęcia praktyczne w naszych warsztatach szkolnych.
Yeah, but there is one important information in this system that during these 3 years of training, students have exactly the chance to change the decision. If they want to exactly become a young employee, they can change it, and on the other hand, they can also change the situation that they don't want to be exactly the young employee. They can change their status into the regular student.
Okay, dziękuję. Please be aware that it's not only question and answer session between Poland, even though you're answering very well the questions, but also the other countries from Estonia, Lithuania, or anybody else is free to answer this. So if our partners from Penevėžys, Lithuania, or from Estonia would like to give an overview about the situation in their region, please be free to do so. The next question is, did the training as a technician already exist in Poland and in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, or is it completely new? So,
Technician to są technicy.
Na poziomie technikum? O to chodzi?
Ja tak to
A zapytaj się, czy chodzi o poziom technikum, a nie branżowa szkoła zawodowa.
We are not sure if we understand correctly the question. Technician, it means as a profession, yeah? For example, car technician, yeah, and so on. So,
tak, my w naszej szkole kształcimy na 2 poziomach. Jest to technikum, które do tej pory trwało 4 lata, a od ubiegłego roku nauczanie w technikum trwa 5 lat.
Yeah, in Poland nowadays we've got, and of course in our school we've got 2 types of training, learning. We've got students who exactly learning for 4 years. Nowadays it will be 5 years in a technical school, and 3 years in the first degree vocational school.
Tak, szkoła branżowa właśnie to teraz się nazywa szkoła branżowa 1. stopnia i trwa 3 lata. A właśnie to, co powiedziałam, od tego roku, od 1 września uruchomiliśmy szkołę branżową 2. stopnia i uczniowie będą się uczyć na poziomie technikum i po ukończeniu tej szkoły będą mieli tytuł technika.
But moreover, the students exactly who are finishing this school year, exactly learning and training in the 3 years of the first degree vocational school, we are exactly setting up the new kind of school, the 2nd degree vocational school, which gives opportunity to the students to continue the professional training, but on the technician level. So they, after finishing and completing the next 2 years of learning and training, they've got all the skills, all the exactly things, just like a technician after 5 years of learning.
Nauka będzie trwała 2 lata i oczywiście muszą zdać odpowiednie egzaminy.
The time of learning in the 2nd degree of vocational school will take next 2 years for those graduates from the 1st degree vocational school. And of course, at the end of the school, when they are before the graduation, they have to pass new kind of vocational exams, which are the equivalent for the vocational exams for the technicians.
Oczywiście po tych 2 latach może przystąpić do matury i kontynuować naukę na uczelniach wyższych.
Of course, the students have the opportunity to decide after those 2 years of learning, next 2 years of learning, to exactly try to pass the Matura exam, so GCSE exam, final exam in the school year. And if they succeed, they will have the opportunity to continue their learning in the higher education level, studies, universities, polytechnical schools.
Ten system edukacji, który teraz będzie od 1 września, funkcjonował 20 lat temu, później niestety przerwano. Uczeń po szkole branżowej mógł iść tylko do liceum.
This system, which we exactly mentioned a second ago, is a new system conducted by the reform of education after several years. This system were exactly in Poland, let's about 15-20 years ago, and we can say that Poland educational system is coming back to the old solutions, yeah? So that the vocational students, vocational school students have the opportunity to finish the training and learning for courses for technicians and continue their education, of course, after passing all the state exams on the higher education level to get, for example, the engineer degree.
Okay. Thank you very much. And of course, I believe it's not the general technician education that the person asking the question has in mind, but of course, the technician education that Lina Predolina presented earlier on. Any comments from the other countries, Lithuania or Latvia or Estonia on this?
Hello, maybe I will add the comment. I'm representing Panevėžys University of Applied Sciences, Lithuania, and we have a vocational training, the same, like in Latvia. First of all, we are representing professional bachelor. So ours, 50% of our study programs is only practice. And of course, it's quite hard to find the practice place for the students, but we have a timetables, and we are preparing from very early time, and we have staff who is working only for finding the practice places. So this is situation in Lithuania. And we don't have professional master degree, only master.
Okay, thank you very much, Jovita. Nice to hear you.
Me too.
Okay, and then another question. If I see it right, the state is paying for the technician training. On the other hand, everyone has to pay for the master training themselves. Why doesn't the state pay for the master craftsman training as well? Good questions. Anybody confident to answer that?
Powiem, jak to jest w Polsce. No właśnie płaci. Bo żeby mieć tytuł mistrza, no to trzeba być młodocianym pracownikiem, a za kształcenie tych uczniów państwo płaci, refunduje pracodawcom koszty kształcenia.
The state is exactly refunding the cost of the training of technicians, and they have to also pay for exactly the master training and the exams. I think it's important for Poland and other countries to exactly have good professionals. And in Poland, exactly, there is recommendation for those students and for their exactly time spent at school and the vocational training.
Za techników nie płaci.
They don't pay for technicians.
Tak.
Okay. Thank you. Good point. Does everyone who successfully completes a technician training course receive a university entrance qualification for job-related courses of study? Or do you have to take an additional exam similar to in Germany it's called Abitur, the entrance test for studying? That's something I would like to also know. Is it possible to go and study after you completed the technician training course? And maybe in your countries?
W Polsce wygląda to tak, że uczeń po ukończeniu szkoły podstawowej wybiera taką drogę. Albo będzie branżowa szkoła pierwszego stopnia 3 lata, lub teraz technikum 5 lat.
In Poland nowadays, students who is graduating exactly the elementary school has to make a decision where exactly he wants to continue. We've got 3 years vocational school of the first degree, first level, and the technical school.
Uczniowie technikum w ciągu nauki mają 2 egzaminy zawodowe i na koniec szkoły, czyli po 5 latach, zdaje maturę.
The students in technical school, of course, on the secondary education level, after the training, they have to pass 2 qualifications as a state exam to exactly continue their learning. But if they want to start to set up the studies on the higher education at universities, academies, polytechnics, they have to pass also our matura exam. So this is Abitur, GCSE in England.
Tak. Gdy zda maturę, może kontynuować naukę na 3-letnich studiach inżynierskich.
If they pass the Abitur Matura exam, they can continue their training, their learning on exactly 3 years engineering studies at higher education level.
Not in bachelor study.
On the bachelor degree also.
Następnie, jeżeli chce mieć tytuł magistra, 2 lata kolejnych studiów.
Next, if they want to achieve the title of master degree, they have to continue their studying for next 2 years.
Jeśli uczeń po szkole podstawowej wybrał branżową szkołę pierwszego stopnia, która trwa 3 lata, może wybrać właśnie branżową szkołę drugiego stopnia, która trwa 2 lata i wtedy ma tytuł technika i później już jest tak jak absolwenci technikum, ta sama ścieżka.
If the student after graduating elementary school decides to start his studies, his learning in 3 years school, a vocational school, after 3 years, he or she can continue their learning, their training in the 2 years vocational school of the second degree. And if they pass the vocational exam, and of course, matura, abitur, they can continue their training and studying on the higher education level. But the first vocational school and the second degree vocational school are both on the secondary education level.
Okay, thank you. It's yes, also in many European countries we are facing this in the last years. In Germany, in the last 15 years, that the universities are opening up and allowing to study job-related courses more and more, even if you don't have the matura or abitur. There are several reasons for that. One is also that due to the process of Bologna, there are more and more universities, and they also compete for young students to come to their university, and they pressure a little bit the political system to allow people to study that have professional experience like this. And I think it's a development that will continue in most European countries. Please do not forget that you're open to ask any questions you have, either by activating your microphone or by using the chat system, whatever comes to your mind. Otherwise, I will continue with a couple. I think I've got 3 more questions. Again, with Poland. If there used to be a school-based vocation training in Poland with almost 90% of training taking place in school, and now the school training is about 25 to 30%, isn't it a risk for the teachers that many teachers will be dismissed, or will the teachers have additional responsibilities?
Dla nas, ja bym się bardzo cieszyła, ponieważ my nieustannie mamy problem ze znalezieniem nauczycieli przedmiotów zawodowych. Ich po prostu nie ma.
I would be really glad if I had exactly the opportunity to hire new teachers of vocational training. We had a constant and regular problem to find the professionals who want to work at school with students at the theoretical training.
Ja mam zatrudnionych nauczycieli, którzy mają albo swoje firmy, albo są pracownikami tym firm na kilka godzin. I to jest kłopot, bo ja muszę dostosować plan lekcji do ich potrzeb.
Nowadays at our school, we have exactly teachers who are hired only for a couple of hours because they are exactly leading and they have their own companies. They are also employers, but they are professionals with a huge experience. But there is a huge con of this situation that hiring teachers, professional teachers of vocational training for only a couple of hours brings us a lot of problems with exactly creating a good schedule, timetable for our students in the school year.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Any other remarks from the other countries? The same, it's also hard for you to find teachers in the vocational schools? Maybe in the Vilnius Building Training Center, for example, or at the Wurde Vocational Education Center. Do you have problems finding teachers?
Hello, everyone. So I am from Vilnius Builders Training Center. And like in this moment, there is the same situation in Lithuania. It's hard to find new teachers to teach new things at school.
Okay. So it's not easy to find new teachers.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Okay. Ačiū, Danielius. And maybe in Estonia? No.
So, hello.
Hello.
I was just listening to William's partner. So actually, it does depend. Sometimes it's really, really difficult to find new professionals. But in vocational school, you see, we have got this secondary school education too. Finding those teachers, it's not hard or difficult, but it's very difficult to find specialists to work for example, in the field of construction worker, metal work, or even IT. And actually, at the moment, there are job advertisements that we are seeking for those professions in our school.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I think the question was about this dual system. And in regards to this training, we carried out only a very small part of it. We had 80 hours to carry out vocational training, and we didn't have any issues to find teachers to train this training. This technician training. But we only had vocational training part, and all the teachers are able to do that. But in regards construction work, we shouldn't have so many. We shouldn't have teachers to train trainees. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. Another question, I believe, from Germany. We have bad experience in Germany when the state financially supports training in companies. Are there state subsidies in Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, or Estonia? For example, does the company receive money from the state when it provides the training, or does the company has to pay the salary from their own pocket?
W Polsce państwo wspiera kształcenie, tak jak powiedziałam, tylko jeśli chodzi o tych młodocianych pracowników i to nie są dużo kwoty, bo tak naprawdę to jest brutto 10 000. Tak naprawdę pracodawca dostaje trochę ponad 8 000 za całe 3 lata.
In Poland, the state exactly supports financially only the vocational training of young employees in the vocational school of the first degree. It's not exactly a huge amount of money. It's the whole amount is about 10,000 zlotys before the tax, so it's approximately 2,500 euro.
Że netto ponad 8.
Yeah. So after the tax is about 8,000 zlotys.
A pamiętajmy, że przez 3 lata musi kupić ubiór roboczy, wypłaca to niewielkie wynagrodzenie. Tak naprawdę musi poświęcić dużo czasu temu młodemu człowiekowi, gdzie w tym czasie mógłby wykonać swoją produkcję.
We have to remember that the employer has to cover exactly during the time of the training the costs, for example, for the professional outfit, the cost of the training. They have to exactly spend time as employer with the students to teach them, to show them, and in this time he or she could work in a regular way and earn money.
Yes, of course. I understand that there are two sides to this issue. I understand that a company needs some financial support if they support the training system. But on the other hand, it can be the wrong way if the support is too high, that companies only take trainees to make some money or get money from the state and pay out only part of it. Because it should be in the very own interest of the companies, of course, to invest into the young people and pay the salary. But there are two sides to this, of course. Yes.
So I'd like to answer about the situation in Estonia too. And actually, unfortunately, it's divided into two. If you speak about school-based internship, then the company won't get any refunding. But if you speak about work-based learning or work WBL, then in this case, the company supervisors are supported by city's government with money and paying money.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe also some experience from Lithuania. Who's paying for the company training the salaries of the apprentices? Is it the state or the company itself, or mixed?
As I know, for this moment, the government pays up to 30% of salary on this.
So 30%, okay.
Yeah, up to 30. It can be 0, it can be 30.
Okay. Thank you. Interesting. Do you have any more questions from the audience? Maybe you can also ask why my tie is blue or white, or any other questions. We have some time, but I don't have any more questions that we received by email. So if there's anything else you would like to comment or ask, feel free to do it. So if that's not the case, I would already conclude the meeting, and thank you very much for your attention. And just remind you that you can find videos of the presentations, but also the PowerPoint versions or PDFs of the presentations at the website www.icc4VET.eu. And I would just like to thank you very much for your commitment, and especially the project partners who have done a great work and really put a lot of heart, blood, and of passion into this project to make it succeed, because it's not an easy project to change or to change the way schools are working and introduce new educations like this. But you've done an outstanding job, and I would like to thank you very much for doing so in the last years. Okay, so thank you very much all for your attention and for taking the time, and we hope to see you soon again, maybe online when you look at the videos, or whenever you have also questions, please feel free to send them by email. We'll be happy to answer them by email also. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. I hope to see you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.